Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eddie Taylor with the United Way. We're here at the United for Community Voices, and we have some special guests with us today. But before we get to them, this is our version of a podcast on farm workers and focusing on the needs and the issues around farm workers here in Santa Maria Valley. Joining us today is Jacob Martin, our technical assistant, and Noemi Robles, our Spanish interpreter. We'll be talking today with our guest, Kimberly Clark and Jennifer Camacho from the California Farm Worker Foundation. And before we get started in the dialogue, would you two please tell us a little bit about yourselves? Jennifer, why don't you go first?
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for inviting us. And my name is Jennifer Camacho. I was born and raised part of my life in Mexico. I moved here to Santa Maria back in 2012. I've been here for 12 years already, so it doesn't feel that long, but I've been here, and I got to meet my community and now helping back to our farm workers. I am the first generation in my family to attend college. I have other siblings who are also attending college, and it's really hard to be the first one in the family and to set up the paths for them. So my parents are farm workers. I was also a farm worker myself during, college times. I had to work in the fields during the summers to pay for my school supplies and for expenses. So, I know a little bit of what it takes to be a farm worker.
Glad you're here. Thanks for leading the way for the family. And Kimberly.
Hi, Eddie. I'm Kimberly Clark. I'm the Director of Programs here at CFF. And I have a very different story than Jennifer. I'm born and raised in California, but I actually lived abroad. I went to school in Costa Rica for a little while, and I lived and worked in Mexico on coffee farms, where I did try my hand at picking coffee, and they all teased me because I was so terrible at it. It's really impressive, the work that our farm workers do, and I'll echo Jennifer and say it sounds cheesy, but it's really a blessing to be able to be in this position where we can support the farm workers that are literally feeding us and feeding the nation.
Thank you for that, Kimberly. And maybe we'll do a different podcast on Costa Rica because I'd really like to know more. I don't need to know a whole lot more about coffee. I drink enough. It's all the education I need. We're going to jump into our first segment, ladies, and I want to talk to you about what CFF does. Now, here's what I have. A nonprofit organization proudly serving over 250,000 farm workers across California. The foundation's mission is to improve the quality of life for farm workers, providing programs and services focused on education, health and wellness, work development, immigration services, and community engagement. And I get confused right away because that sounds very much like United Way. Wouldn't you agree?
There's a reason that we're here with you, Eddie, I think, and that we've been able to really work well together. We have our own flavor of how we're serving the community, but I agree with you. It's been really great to see how these puzzle pieces fit together.
It is. We're having fun doing it. I can't thank them enough, but I will continue to try for all of your help on a topic that we're going to cover a little bit later about how many farm workers were helped in the area because of our partnership. So let's talk a little bit about the specifics, Jennifer, if you don't mind, identifying, responding to the needs of the farm workers. Where do you all begin? How do you start?
Yeah, I came on board to CFF back in 2022. CFF serves farm workers in other counties, including all the Central Valley, the Coachella Valley, and now here in Santa Maria. So I was new to the area in agriculture, especially. I was a farm worker, but not in the other side of supporting them with programs and services. So I came on board with the CFF mission on supporting them, and it is interesting because CFF is very data driven. We actually ask farm workers what their needs are and not really assume of what they might need. So that's something that I feel like it's unique about CFF, that we get to go out to the fields and ask them. So back in 2022, when we started here in Santa Maria, we went to 175 crews, including strawberries to like the vegetable transplanting crews to the berries. So we went there directly to their crews and asked them, what are your needs? What do you need from us? And, we collected over 3,000 surveys from the community, and that's how we we're able to find what are the top needs in our area. Sometimes when you ask someone who's not very familiar to farm workers, what are the needs of farm workers, they think, oh, maybe they need food, money. But it's interesting to see that farm workers, that's not their top need. Their top need is learning the language. They are very eager to learn English. Housing insecurity was also part of the top needs, and that's something that is affecting not only them but all of us in health and wellness. Um, One of our directors always tells us, what the average life of a farm worker is? 47 years old, and we want to get it higher. And by bringing services in health and wellness area, in this health and wellness area, it's going to help farm workers live longer and also have a healthier life with their families. So we've been serving here for 2 years. We have 4 staff in this area, and we've been collecting that kind of information to better serve our community.
I want to go a little bit deeper on some of that. Jennifer, that's a lot. And then I heard you say you've been here for 2 years. Why does it feel like you've been here for a decade, right? I mean, you gathered the information, and frankly, I find it amazing. You got 3,000. You got input from 3,000 individual farm workers identifying the needs, and that's a great sample, right? The thing that I found most disturbing about what you were just sharing with us is the average lifespan is 47 years for a farm worker. What are the conditions that are contributing to that? Is it because of the outside work? Is it what else goes on with the farm worker that's out there? I mean, for me, okay, I'm just a guy who's driving down a highway, right? And frankly, I think I have a little bit in common with Kimberly, because if I tried to pick coffee beans, they wouldn't laugh at me. Frankly, they'd ask me to leave, right? Please get out of the way, okay? And I see what's happening out in the fields. Like, I get to drive to Osaflaco. You've been to Osaflaco? You've been to Osaflaco?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Take her to Osaflaco. And as you go out there, I mean, you see so many hundreds, maybe thousands of workers in the fields. Just looking at the level of hard work that they're doing makes me respect them all the more. And I often wonder, how difficult, I mean, if I had to bend over for like 10 minutes, okay, I'm already sore. Let's not go into my age, Jennifer. Okay, that's not fair. I saw her looking. Okay, but tell us about the typical day. You've done it. What's it like in the field?
The typical day of a farm worker they get out in the morning, wake up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to make their breakfast, to make their lunches, and then head to work. It could be a 20-minute drive up to maybe 40 minutes. Depending on what area we want to go to, Los Alamos, Santa Ynez, or even here in the Santa Maria Valley, Nipomo. So they drive there and work for 8 to 9 hours a day. But at the end, I think the main part is how can we, as a nonprofit organization here in the community, they spend all this time going to work, then coming back to their families and spending some time, because they also spend time with their kids. But what about the resources that are available in the community? That's the part that maybe sometimes there's not enough time after work to go out and look for resources. So that's the part that CFF brings, bridging that gap in between, being like the bridge in between services and farm workers. So I think that's the main purpose of us being here, especially because they wake up early, they come back late, and they spend the rest of their day with their kids or trying to even prepare for the next day. So there's not much time to actually go out and look for resources.
I think you got me at getting up at 4 o'clock. If I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, I'm pretty certain I wouldn't have lasted this age. Okay. And we won't go into my age, right? Jennifer, stop it.
That wasn't going to be my point. One of the things that I always really like to emphasize is in some spheres, you'll often hear people talk about farm workers and unskilled labor. Anybody who has gone out and watched people work in the fields knows there is nothing unskilled about it. This is one of the great things I love about Instagram, TikTok, is I have friends that are now asking me, is that really what it looks like? just how they're able to harvest cilantro is one of the ones I saw recently, where they're able to grab it, cut it, rubber band it, and you can't even comprehend what they're doing with their hands because they're working so fast. And so
That's
this
a
is one
great point. That's awesome.
They're so skilled. It's amazing. My joke about coffee beans, I always say, which is very true. They did laugh at me. It's not unskilled labor. It's amazing what these people are doing, and it is very hard work. Not only because of the schedule, but it can be very physically demanding.
And is the work mostly hourly pay, or is it done piecework?
You have a combination of both. You have crews that are working by hour, and then crews that are working by piece rate. The strawberry industry, you see that they start by hours, and then when there's more strawberries in the fields, they go up to work by piece rate. So as if you work faster, you get more money. So that's how it works.
That's a skill, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the more skilled are going to pick more berries and earn more money.
And even how you put it back in the clam fields, it's a skill. I don't think I'll be able to go there. I did work in the strawberry field by like maintenance, but seeing how they pack those strawberries in a delicate way so they can go to the store and someone can go buy it and make a smoothie, make a pie. It's really amazing because I tried putting it once and it got all smushed. It's a skill.
And listen, for anybody who's out there who hasn't had Santa Maria Valley strawberries, you don't know the treat you're missing. I was introduced to them 22 years ago this year. My first year here when my grandson took me to the Santa Maria Strawberry Fair. What do we call it? Strawberry Festival, right? And I won't tell you where I'm from, but I'm from a place where the strawberries, when you cut into them, they're white and they're sour. And who likes this, right? Nobody eats this stuff. And little Zach, he bites into a strawberry and says, "Oh." And I looked at the strawberry and it was all red inside. I said, "What in the world?" And I took my first bite and fell in love with Santa Maria Valley strawberries. So it's different here. I don't know what the genetics are like as opposed to where I come from. Maybe it's a difference in coffee beans too. But let's talk a little bit more about identifying the needs for farm workers, specifically around education.
Around education, as I mentioned before, we identified that learning English or learning a different language was one of the top needs. So something that we went back, we were like, oh, there's community classes being offered to learn English. What are the obstacles of a farm worker attending those classes? And we identified something very unique while talking to the community, to farm workers, that a lot of our farm workers weren't able to finish basic elementary school from their home country, and that really brings an obstacle when trying to learn another language. What are the basics of a language, the grammar, the sounds? And we started in Spanish class. Now we're teaching farm workers that want to learn how to read and write Spanish. We're teaching them. We have 2 classes that are going on. And you have also the Mixteco community, that's an indigenous language. So now we're teaching Mixteco speakers Spanish because they want to learn English. And we have a lot of them who are very interested in learning English after this class. So our goal is to give them the basic skills and the language learning so they can go up and learn English. And also, I want to mention or emphasize our Nueva Generación program. We have a
yeah, I'll jump in on that one. Our Nueva Generación program is a scholarship for the children of farm workers. And this, I'm pleased to say that we have several applicants who applied from the Santa Maria Valley for our Children of Farm Workers Scholarship this year. We haven't selected or announced yet. That'll be coming in the next few weeks. But this is a program that, as the name implies, really is built for the children of farm workers to have a resource that can support them in their higher education. This is, a lot of our students are traditionally going to 4-year colleges, but this is also for trade schools, community colleges, seeing those other opportunities outside of what some of us might traditionally think scholarships
Many pathways.
Are for.
Excellent. And for those of the folks like me who are listening, that I'm pretty sure what you said is New Generation Scholarship. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
you are learning Spanish, Eddie.
This is a question for you on learning Spanish. as to scale, the scale is, we know that we have more than 25,000 farm workers at any given time here in Santa Maria Valley and the surrounding area. How many people are you reaching with the English lessons and the Spanish lessons? And also, I think, let's talk a little bit about the Mixteco population, because I know that it's significant here in Santa Maria Valley, and we're experiencing it here with United Way with the work that we want to do with literacy. And how do we get it to scale, to interact with the families, and how many are you working with now?
You know, before answering that, I think one of the things that you really need to have is trust among our community and our farm workers. By building trust, you get to, get to know our community, our farm workers, and their stories, because each one of them have a different story. Each one of them come from a different family background. So I think has been key to us to really engage with them, and even have in our own staff, we have people who speak Mixteco who really understand them, and you can see, if I could show you a picture, a video of how they get happy when they hear someone speaking Mixteco. But yeah, it's amazing. And right now we have a few students who are attending those classes. We haven't had in like big classes because we want to make sure that we're providing
it's really high quality.
Yeah,
so
high quality.
Quality content.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually just discussing this with one of our other partners, that the classes have been smaller. That we've had, the classes are normally 10 and 12 individuals that are coming. Yeah. And when you first look at that, oh, well, that's kind of sad. Except the thing that's really amazing is the retention. And so we actually have the same people who are coming or bringing friends or bringing other family members. And this, I definitely have to shout out to Adilene, who is who's teaching our Spanish language class. And I loved how she really expressed it, that she said not only is it the actual education, but they're also learning how to learn in a way. For someone that, even for me at this point, it's been a long time since I sat in a traditional classroom. And so it would take me a little while to adjust. But Adilene, has seen that people might be a little nervous coming the first time. And they might sit there, but they're not really engaged necessarily. They're not really comfortable. They're not sure what's going on. And even after just a couple classes, they're raising their hand. They're asking questions. And that really speaks to the larger goal here. Is obviously it's going to be great if we can get them to feel more comfortable in Spanish, being able to read and write. But then long term, the move is to then say, great, you're ready for the next step on your learning journey. And is that English language classes with a more traditional learning environment? But they're going to feel a lot more comfortable being able to step into a literal classroom because they've had this, I don't want to say baby steps, but a little bit, it's more about coming to the farm worker and meeting them where they are, rather than saying, farm workers, here's resources, you need to come to us. We're really focused on bringing to them and serving them directly.
It's a perfect model. And when you say 10 to 12 people in a classroom, I'm going, that's perfect size. To get to scale means that there has to be more than one class going on at a time. But if we had 10 classes that had 10 people in it each, and you're able to do that repeatedly during the year, then you're reaching 1,000 people in a year. And those 1,000 people interact with 3,000 other people. Remember the Amway model? Okay, that's how that works, okay? We're going to wrap this session up, but before I do, some of the things that we do here at United Way that I think can correlate and benefit your folks who are going through your classes are the things like the Imagination Library, right, that provide the books for children. These are age appropriate, starting from birth till age 5. And as we've been doing this for, I think, 17 years now, cancel, I think, we've been doing it for 17 years. And in the next year, we're marking extraordinary growth for that program. But having the books in the house for the parents to read with their children, and one of the things that they've always told me is, parents don't actually have to be able to read that book. If they can turn the page and tell the story based on the pictures and they recognize the words, the children start building their abilities to relate to reading, right? And so let's talk in the future about how we can get every single one of your parents who have children between the ages of 0 and 5 registered in the Imagination Library. Can we do that?
Yes, we're ready to start enrolling them, and reading is key to everything. So,
Hey, I absolutely agree. It actually leads to math skills and a whole lot of other good stuff. I want to thank you both for being here. Jacob, I want to thank you for your technical assistance. Noemi is sitting over here the entire time, hasn't had a word to say to us, but maybe in the next session, because we're going to come back with the folks from CFF, and we're going to have a deeper discussion about education and a couple of other things that they're involved in, especially a special event that's coming up here in Santa Maria Valley. So thank you again for being here. We really appreciate you guys.
thank you, Eddie.